Welcome back to Adding and Subtracting Day 2. We're in the next page of our foldable. What I wanted to do at the beginning of this activity, or at this note session, is to give you the steps for adding and subtracting rational expressions. Step 1 is going to be to find a common denominator. Remember, that shortcut is to find one of each quantity that is in the denominator of each of the fractions that has been given. Number 2 is to multiply each fraction by the missing part of the common denominator. And then step 3 will be to combine like terms. Today is going to be a little bit different. The video is a lot shorter because we're only going to go over these 3 problems here. The rest of the problems at the bottom half of the page are going to be yours to complete on your own. I'm going to leave you each one's solution so you can have an endpoint that you're supposed to get to. If you just copy down the solutions and nothing more, you will receive no credit for this day in your notes. You must attempt these problems. The only way that you're going to get better at them is to actually practice and solve. So please take the time and get them done. If you do not understand what you are doing, then you must come in and talk to me for tutoring. All right, question number 1. Notice we already have a common denominator, so there's nothing else that we need to do. Notice your instructions say you must determine where the expression is undefined. Remember, the restriction for a rational function is the place where the denominator of the fraction is equal to 0. So in this particular case, since both fractions have the same denominator, both fractions are undefined at the same value. Therefore, x cannot equal -4 is your answer. There will be times when there are more than one value that x cannot be equal to. Alright, now because that's the case, they have a common denominator already, we're simply going to combine like terms. X plus x is 2x, and -3 minus 2 is -5. And we'll write that over the common denominator of x plus 4. Remember to identify your quantities. No identical quantities here, so we will be finished with our problem. Alright, next. The only value that would make this expression untrue or undefined is the value of -1. However, because of the square, it's impossible to get -1. So there is no value for which this expression is undefined. Now, because we have a common denominator already, we are simply going to combine like terms. Remember, with the minus, we must distribute it to all values within the quantity that it is in front of. So that's going to be 3x minus 4 minus 6x minus 1, all over the common denominator of x squared plus 1. We'll combine like terms. 3 minus 6, -3x, and 4 and 1 makes -5, all over x squared plus 1. Identify your quantities. Notice that there are no identical quantities, so we cannot simplify it any further. Number 2 is done. We need to find a common denominator here. The common denominator we're looking for is 21x. And the number that we need to multiply the first fraction by to make 21 is 7. The number we need to multiply the second fraction by to make 21 is 3. So that's going to give us 14 plus 15, which is going to be 29 over 21x. 29 and 21 will not reduce any further, therefore we are finished. Alright, your job for the remainder of this is to practice. Practice, practice, practice. You'll notice that your solutions have been given to you. The solutions are not enough for you to receive credit on this particular part of your notes. Please make sure that you are working through this to determine what it is you need to do. We'll do question number 4 together so that you can get a good idea of how to start these problems. Notice that I have 3 separate quantities here. I have a 4, an x, and an x squared. So my first step is to figure out what my common denominator is. Now remember, inside of x squared, which is x times x, there's already an x. So I don't need x to the third, I only need x squared as part of my denominator, as you can see in your solution. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to figure out what it's going to take to turn 4x into 4x squared. Well, that just takes another x. And then you're going to want to figure out what it takes x squared to turn into 4x squared, and that's just the number 4. So my first fraction becomes 3x, my second fraction becomes -8. And there's my solution, which matches there. So the work you're going to have to show me is what values you multiplied each fraction by to create your common denominator. Now, in a lot of ways, these next problems are going to be a little bit easier because you already know what your common denominator is. But you've got to make sure that your work reflects. So please take the time now to solve these problems so that you feel comfortable in adding and subtracting rational expressions.